All right, hello, good morning and welcome. This is a webinar on the business case for sustainability and how to get started. So to introduce ourselves to you, if you don't know us, we are, I call it a marriage. I don't know if that's the right word all the time. Two organizations in one. So the Wisconsin Manufacturing Extension Partnership, or known as WMEP Manufacturing Solutions, and the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council. So on the WMEP side, we do consulting for small to medium-sized manufacturers in the southeast portion of the state. And on the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council side, we help companies advance sustainability, their principles and practices through business. And we primarily do this through membership and some tools. So we really help educate, measure, improve, and connect. I'm going to start by introducing myself and then our speakers today, and then we will dive in. So I am Jessie Servi-Ortiz, the Managing Director of the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council. And with me today, I have Greg Gasper and Krista Kananen. So Greg, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Greg Gasper. I lead our certification and sustainability service lines for WMEP, the consulting side of the organization.
And I'm Krista Kananen. I oversee our Green Masters program with WSBC and also support companies integrating sustainability through consulting on the WMEP side as well.
Great. Well, thank you both. We're happy to be here today. Thanks for joining us to learn a little bit more about the business case for sustainability. So this is our agenda. We're going to talk briefly about the business case, give a few examples. We're going to talk just about some kind of key definitions and fundamentals of sustainability. We're going to give you a few tips for getting started. And then Chris is going to talk about how you can use the Green Masters program as a tool. If you're in the place where you're looking to get started and wanting some support, that's a free tool to WSBC members. And then we'll share a little bit more about how we can help if you're in a position and want or need some help. So give me a second here. I'm going to launch a poll. And let's see. Maybe. There it is. All right, so here we are. This poll is really just helping us understand where you are on your sustainability journey. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a brief moment to go ahead, I will read through those and select. I think you can select more than one if more than one applies to you. But the question is really, where are you in your sustainability journey at your company? And so the first one is trying to understand the business case. Are you still really, trying to figure out what that is? Customers are asking you, but you don't understand what they're asking necessarily or why. Are you starting to implement a few projects? You are gathering metrics, or you may be gathering some metrics, but you need to learn how to integrate sustainability across your business. That's really where our expertise lies. Have you created baselines or KPIs? Are you starting to draft SMART goals? Any of those that apply, or other? I see someone did check the other category. So if you're brave and willing to tell us what other means in the chat, that'd be great. So I'll give it just a few more minutes. It looks like about half of you have answered. Great. All right, just a couple more seconds here. Great, appreciate you taking that time to really help us understand where you're at. So I'm gonna end the result, or here and share the results. Hopefully you can see this on your screen, but we had 3 of you say trying to understand the business case. 1, customers are asking, but you're not sure what that means. 30% of you have implemented a few projects. 1 of you gathering metrics, and 4 of you needing to understand how to integrate it across your business. Great, and 2 others. Like I said, if you're willing to share what other is for you, please just put that in the chat. And I'll just say here too, We're a friendly group, and if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to just put those in the chat. We'll kind of pause to ask if you have questions along the way, but really this webinar is for you to get your questions answered. So please feel free to ask us anything that you'd like. All right. So I am going to start here by going over sort of the business case for sustainability. And I like to do this by starting with how we define sustainability. So the way that we define it here with WMEP and WSBC is the pursuit of business growth strategy that creates long-term stakeholder value by seizing opportunities and managing risks related to the company's environmental and social impacts. Now, there's a lot of different definitions to sustainability, but this is the one that we really resonate with. We really believe that sustainability is a growth strategy for organization and it does create long-term value. And the reason stakeholder value is underlined there because, we're not taking a shareholder lens here. We're looking at sustainability as a holistic sort of system for a business and community. And therefore, all the stakeholders that are involved, meaning your employees, your board, your leadership, your customers, your supply chain, and potentially the community that you reside are all getting some sort of value out of your organization. All right, so brief history sort of about the evolution of sustainability here. Again, sustainability means a lot of things to different people, and don't love the term sustainability in and of itself, but really in the 90s, it started, it was really kind of focused on this triple bottom line concept, people, planet, and profit. It was trying to bring environment and people, workforce, community, society to an equal playing field with profit. And this was really the dawn of what's called CSR, or corporate social responsibility. A lot of companies still publish corporate social responsibility reports. So this movement really, grew out of the 90s. It was coined TBL, or triple bottom line. But one of the things it was missing was the governance that really holds all of these pieces together. And so the second wave of sustainability really came out of the finance industry and really grew sort of also out of the investment community with socially responsible investing. And, we've heard an uptick of this ESG in popularity since COVID, really. And, there's a popularity in ESG and there's also unpopularity in ESG growing. But really what this means is that we're looking at the organization's environmental, social, and governance, the way that they're managed associations. So I really like this slide and I like to share it because it talks about the changing conversation of where we are today. So on the left, you see sort of that governance and leadership became a part of sustainability or ESG, but it really didn't have an equal part until more recently. And then the other thing I like about this is it adds in the strategy and execution piece, which is critical. As many of you pointed out, that's the part you might be struggling with, right? You can have environmental metrics and social metrics, but how do you tie it all together? How do you integrate it across your organization? And how do you craft a strategy that really connects to your core business initiatives to grow or use it as a growth tool and a differentiator? So like I said, that's really one of the areas that we excel and sort of one of the areas I'm really passionate about. And so that's really where this conversation is today and where it's headed in the future. We get a lot of confusion around what is ESG and sustainability, and are they the same thing? Are they a different thing? And the way that we define that is that ESG, environmental, social, and governance, is really a financial tool to measure the impact of sustainability for an organization. So it's one of the tools, it's one of the lenses. And it does really resonate more with the publicly traded companies because that's where they're being financially measured. So I'm sure you're aware this word sustainability means a lot of things. I've said that a few times. I like this slide because it kind of shares the universe of what we're talking about when we talk about sustainability. I've been working in this space quite a long time, and traditionally in manufacturing, especially, there's a large emphasis on the environmental side. But really, when I talk to businesses, they're like, well, what about, data security, or what about, risk management? In our lens, all of these things fall under sustainability inside of an organization. And sometimes that's a hard concept to sort of grasp for those who are newer to this. So we really take a systems approach to sustainability. It's really looking at all of the systems across your business and how you can be in that continuous improvement cycle for all of these areas. So this slide, again, just shows kind of the key environmental topics, the key leadership and governance topics. Business model and innovation is a part of this. Human capital, or we like to say workforce, or in social capital, or how you're handling human rights, as an example. Let's see here. Oh, someone was asking about how this differs from the SDGs, which is a great question. I don't want to say it differs per se. I'll actually go back to this slide. From the SDGs, I would say it's a different framework and a different approach. If you're not familiar, the Sustainable Development Goals were put out by the United Nations, and there's, I believe, 19 goals, and each one of them touches all of these categories. So similarly, it's kind of a holistic approach to sustainability. So it very much is in alignment. And a lot of companies will use the SDGs as a framework, again, for aligning what is material to their organization. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, so the business case for sustainability is fairly well established at this point. There is a large emphasis today on reducing long-term risks, and sustainability can add to the resiliency of a company. Sometimes we hear from manufacturers especially that, the sustainability thing will cost them time or money. And that can be true when it comes to large capital investments. However, a company that's integrating continuous improvement across their operations is really reducing costs if they're doing it correctly. So one example, we have a medium-sized manufacturer that we work with that really started looking at this through the product lens, and over time through redesign, through understanding the materials that were part of the process of their design, of improving their processes on the manufacturing side, increasing throughput, reducing waste, both in handling and waste on the actual product, reevaluating packaging. All of those things happened in a process over time, but they were able to save literally millions of dollars across product lines for their organization. And once they saw that impact, right, they started looking at, okay, well, let's look at energy and all the energy that we're using. How can they make adjustments to production that help them save on energy costs? Now they're working on a zero waste initiative across the organization, and they're really doing that because they understand the value of savings that it has for them, and how they can use those resources to allocate for other initiatives. McKinsey & Company reports that improvements in operating efficiencies can reduce operating costs by up to 60%. So that's not pocket change, folks. We're really talking about real dollars that can be saved. So I also want to touch on stakeholders for a moment. In the manufacturing sector, this is really something I think that you need to consider. So if you're a supplier to a large publicly traded company, if you're a supplier to the government, either directly or indirectly, if you're in an industry that is or that's on the consumer product side, or that your product ends up in the hands of consumers, whether it's a product itself or something that they consume, like food and beverage, or you have a product that exports to Europe, to the EU, the pressure is on in all of those categories. for sure. So what that means for you, whether you like it or not, is that the expectation for you to be measuring and improving some of these key metrics is really, really there. And I can't understate that. We have had companies that we've worked with that say they're searching for new suppliers and they're going out on websites and trying to understand what the company's doing in sustainability. And if there's no reliable presence in sustainability, they're being overlooked. And so we're hearing that hearsay, but there's an opportunity there to build relationships with your stakeholders, with your customers, and also get out ahead of some of the rules and regulations that are coming to be able to consider potentially new markets and new customers that you might not have had access to previously by organizing around sustainability. So there's a lot of different things on this slide that kind of are the business case, but I just also wanted to briefly touch on the workforce side of this because it's really no secret that in the manufacturing sector is one of the hardest hit when it comes to finding talent. And so as workforce changes over to a younger generation, the expectations, the needs, the values of these younger employees are different. In a recent study done by Cone Communications, they say that 64% of workers will not work for a company that doesn't have strong environmental or social commitments. I think that number is rising. That's, the majority at this point. And from what I'm seeing, again, a lot of turnover often happens when companies can't figure out how to walk their talk in an appropriate way, right? So greenwashing is a real thing. They might get some people in the door saying, yeah, we have some great initiatives, but if they're not really taking that seriously, that adds to the turnover. And it really can be a way to engage, recruit, and retain talent in today's workforce. So those are just a few key aspects of the business case. There's a lot more. If you want any more specific examples or have specific questions about any of this, I'm happy to answer on that now or offline. So after this, I am going to turn it over to Greg to talk about key sustainability terminology. Are you there, Greg? I can't hear you. Uh-oh. I know he was having some internet troubles this morning, so.
Am I doing okay, Jesse, now?
Okay, yes, now I can hear you.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on this for me. So thanks all for attending. I just wanted to spend a few minutes to talk about fundamentals of sustainability. So when we start to look at some of the definitions that are out there, it's always good to have a good understanding of what these are. So when you hear these, typically, this is our Sustainability 101 session where we'll talk about some of these. And one that we hear about quite often is carbon footprint. And that's really your indicator to compares the amount of greenhouse gases emitted from your company. So what does that look like? So you're usually reporting this in tons of emissions per year. So typically that's when you hear the term carbon footprint, that's what that's being referred to. And also when you start to look at and you hear the term carbon accounting, it's basically the method that you're using to count, inventory, or track and report these gas emissions. So this is the process that you go through to make sure that you are stating what exactly is going on organizationally. So we talk about carbon. This is where the fun begins, is because we start to hear scope 1, 2, and 3. And sometimes people use these and they talk as if you know what these are. So I just wanted to go through these quick with you today to talk about what these are so you have a good understanding of it. And scope 1 emissions is essentially that arrow in the middle. It's the direct emissions from your company owned and controlled resources. So it's things you control internally. Scope 2 are your indirect emissions from your generation of purchased energy from your utility. So it's whatever you're bringing in, if it's gas, electric, so those are the two things that most companies track and can control. It's the scope 3 emissions, which are all the indirect emissions that are in your upstream and downstream value chains. So these are your value stream and value chain emissions. So those are when you're asking your suppliers, and conversely, you may be being asked by your customers for this information, so that way they can provide their scope 3 emissions. Next slide is water balance. And essentially what we're talking about here is really understanding the flows of water in and out of your facility or processes in your operation. So that way you can get a quantified number of how much water you're consuming as an organization. So it's tough to get every drop. So that's where there's some acceptable ranges for accuracy, to be able to determine what that water balance is in your organization. So when you hear water balance, it's trying to figure out what's coming in, what's coming out, what you're using internally. The next term is one that we're starting to hear more and more of, and you may be getting asked this by some of your customers, is talking about circular economy. And what this is starting to look at, in the past, we would always look at things, take, make, and waste is really the way we would do it. We would take something in, we'd make something with it, and it'd go into the trash. But now what we're starting to look at in circular economy is how can we use those resources to and keep those resources in use longer to get the maximum value while being able to recover and regenerate some of the componentry from it at the end of its useful life. So sometimes organizations will bring back some of their equipment and take the parts off that they can use again and reuse it in different assemblies. So it just differs organizationally as to how circular you can be with your materials and the products that you and goods and services that you produce. So the next term is an interesting one, and one that sometimes gets misquoted quite a bit, and it's normalization. And what we're talking about here is really trying to equate something to apples, so that where there's a consistent scale, so that way you can understand and evaluate over time what that looks like. So you can see, some examples here, the number, weight, or units produced at a facility. So sometimes we might be looking at, how much energy was consumed versus the amount of units produced. Or we start to look at, persons' hours worked at a facility for the amount of electricity consumed. These are some things, and what you're trying to do here with this terminology and with normalization is to be able to have some standard that you can use to measure, to track your improvements and activities year over year, or whatever time frame that you're looking at. Along those same lines,
Uh-oh, Greg, I think you cut out. I'll just jump in until I can hear you again.
how productive can you be?
Can you repeat that one, Greg? You kind of cut out on that one.
Okay, sorry. So resource intensity is the productivity portion of things, and we're always looking at productivity. We've been looking at productivity long before we were thinking about sustainability, and it's how do you use those raw materials most effectively to get the value add that your organization's looking for? How effective are you in using the materials that you need to produce your products? Through our work and working with companies and through our research and experiences, we've really come up with 5 core beliefs for enhancing productivity. And if you start to look at those on the right-hand side, thinking lean, how can we do well with and be effective, and as effective as we can be operationally. Sometimes we start to look at setting goals and limits that will be able to help us to be able to try to figure out what we want to be here. So we're really tracking some of these things and setting goals and objectives. Really should start to think, profit per hour. How do we look at things and bring it down to a greater understanding of how you throughput, yield, and how we can do these things operationally that are really going to help us to look at things from like an employee per hour perspective. but really starting to also think about things from a holistic standpoint of really starting to understand, can we do things, from a technology standpoint? Can we improve some of the operational systems we have in our organization? And how do we change behaviors to be able to, bring about a more collaborative culture in looking at, how we can improve our productivity? And then once again, thinking circular, how can we take advantage by, increasing and optimizing our products and the service life cycles that they maintain. So really the secret sauce for the productivity improvement is taking a look at and trying to find ways that you can substitute away from scarce resources. So where those opportunities lie, do you have some organizationally that you can consider? Or are there ways that you can eliminate waste through your system, anywhere in the system, if you can eliminate waste and figure out ways to increase your circularity by reusing or recycling products? And then ultimately trying to optimize your efficiency from a standpoint of, how can you do it safely and reliably and have people buy into that? And that's, starting to look at that culture. How do we change some of the behaviors that we've always been doing? Any questions on the 101 portion? Most of you probably know all those things, so nothing too earth-shattering there. So once you understand those main concepts, let's figure out, how do we get started on this? What would you do to get started? Well, there's really 5 key components to a successful sustainability program. And the first is commitment, is really understanding your true north. What defines sustainability for your company? Metrics that matter, you start to understand what the global context and the local measures are. Determine what's important to you and your organization and what will be measured to make a difference. Really, that sets the purpose of the organization. Code of conduct, it's doing the right things. This is everyone's responsibility, whether you want to practice sustainability or not. This is really the key to, making sure that you have a successful program. Impacts and actions, it's really the products, processes, and innovations that make your company sustainable. So those are the things that you start to take a look at. Where can we have the impact? What are the actions that we can take to make that happen? And then ultimately, trying to, through strategic customer market employee tools and systems, create a new and a revitalized we. Who are we? What are we want to be? Who do we want to be? How do we want to project ourselves, in the marketplace? So those are some that we've found to be, very true in the work that we've done with the clients that we've helped with their sustainability efforts. So when you start to look at this roadmap, part of being able to build a credible business case is really being able to cut through the noise of sustainability. There's a lot of information about sustainability out there, as Jesse stated, and it's not all equally relevant or impactful to your organization. So, we've heard of them, and we've worked with manufacturing facilities that, work really hard on trying to conserve water because they've heard that's a good thing to do. But really, it's not, it's ignoring their climate impacts on their virgin material consumption, where they could have more impact by taking a look at that. So, what we need to start taking a look at is really understanding how can we take a systematic approach to being able to address these issues to make things more complete in your organization. So you can see from this graph here, what we're starting to look at is a methodology that we work with clients when we develop a sustainability strategy for them. And this aligns also with the Green Master.
Oh no, he cut out again, at least for me. Yeah, okay. I'll just
Sustainability issues.
Greg, you cut out again. So start back at sort of where you were talking about. This is a framework.
Sorry about that. Thank you. So what this diagram is showing is it's a methodology that we use when we work with our clients to help them develop a sustainability strategy and roadmap. And it really aligns with the Green Masters platform that Krista is going to speak to shortly. And it's predicated on the Plan, Do, Check, Act model, which is a key tenet of all ISO systems. And it helps you to really achieve scalable performance improvements in the sustainability issues that matter most to your organization and your stakeholders, and build on success over time. So really, it's a methodology that's continually improving. let's do one more term here. And this is a term that's where we usually start with our clients, is materiality. And what we're trying to understand here is you have to understand you can't do everything at once. And you have to look at things from a risk and opportunity standpoint to understand what's material to your business. And as you can see in the box on the upper right hand side, a material issue is one that's going to, could affect your organization's credibility, operational or financial integrity, or your key stakeholders say it's important. So those are the issues that you should be taking into consideration as you develop your sustainability program and activities. And ultimately, you just start where you are and you grow over time. So nobody expects you to be, perfect at the onset. The goal is quality and not quantity. So try not to bite off more than you can chew. And really, if you start to look at it, and Krista is going to talk a little bit about this and how the Green Masters program may be of assistance to some companies, because it really emphasizes understanding what's material to your organization and then letting that inform your prioritization of topics. And that's what that graph is on the right. And I won't steal Krista's thunder on that, but really it helps you to understand and how you integrate that sustainability and how you do business now and in the future. So some things to include as we look at it from different perspectives is really to understand, and when we conduct our sustainability assessments with companies, we help companies understand the current state for their industry, how to navigate the landscape of that disclosure. And it's typically through standards, frameworks, certifications, et cetera, and what those elements of sustainability are most important for your organization. And then you can take that information and it can be used to establish your business priorities. You outline a plan of action to accelerate that progress, and then ultimately, address those priority areas. Jesse, next slide. Oops, I think you skipped one for me. Questions to consider. Thank you. So some of these are questions for you to take a look at and ask internally in your organization as you start to look at and develop your sustainability framework and structure. There's some questions here that really can help you decide, where you're at organizationally and ensure that you set yourself up for success as you develop those systems. So I won't go into them here, but I mean, you start to look at these things. And if you haven't asked these questions, these might be some that would be very interesting for you to ask and get some information that's valuable intel as you develop your system. So why does materiality matter to companies? Because, if you're focused on your material issues, because it really has an opportunity to really, look at the opportunity for you to build value organizationally. And it also serves as a, you can also identify your risks to your reputation and your profitability when you start to look at this. So, for many companies, material sustainability impacts are in your supply chain. And, and that's often more than 60% of your business or more of your activities when you're looking at sustainability. So if you factor in supply chain, you want to start taking a look at, 5 aspects during your assessment to take a look at that. And these are biodiversity, your upstream and downstream greenhouse gases, materials, toxics, and waste. So those are 5 areas that you should, take a look at as you, consider and develop your systems, to start to take a look at where there's some opportunities there that, might be a risk for you organizationally. So what strategy is right for you? Well, that's exactly right. It's got to be your strategy. So sometimes it might be building it. You might create something and develop it on your own. You might leverage some things that you're doing, organizationally. You might already be doing SWOT analysis or, doing other types of ISO related systems and structures that you're already doing. You can incorporate and build your sustainability into that. Or sometimes your customers are driving this. They tell you need to be reporting to the sustainability consortium, or there's a different segment of their business sector that you need to be reporting stuff to, or it's market driven. It could be, CDP. Sometimes you hear some of those terms and stuff. Well, we got to submit to CDP or SASB, or understanding that there may be things that your customers are going to dictate what you can do. So you have to kind of balance and determine which is the best path for you to take organizationally as you address sustainability. And as you're starting to do this, we want you to start considering how you're developing those KPIs. Again, determining what's important and material to your organization. Those are the ones where you're going to have those key performance indicators driving your activities and the things that you do. You have to establish organizational goals for your sustainability. What are you trying to accomplish? What is the time frame you're looking to reduce or meet certain requirements? And then cascade those goals into specific objectives. So we talk about SMART goals and how we set those up so that way you can measure that and hold people accountable for, working towards those goals. Assessing your current performance level. You need to be honest, be where you're at. It's not where you'd like to be, it's where you're at today, and how do you improve to get to where you want to be in the future. Establishing those baselines and targets, but then finding time to establish a cadence to review those KPIs. So, when is a good time to be looking at that? In most ISO systems, you have management review sessions. So, and typically those could be as frequent as once a quarter. So, that might be a good time to be looking at your sustainability KPIs as well, if you integrate that into your existing system. So ultimately, what we're trying to say here is, sustainability is really looking at your operational activities to be able to see how can you impact your environment and your work business by doing more with less. And essentially, we've been doing that for many, many years, even before sustainability was considered cool. So, continue to start looking at ways that your organization can do more with less. And you're going to be, taking some of these tips and concepts, and you'll be able to, start realizing some greater benefits, and then realizing the benefits of incorporating sustainability into your existing or developing into a system that works well for you organizationally. So I think I'm over on time, so I'm going to turn it over to Krista so she can get rolling on the Green Masters. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. You're good on time. That was fantastic. So as I said in my introduction, one of my roles in the organization is to oversee our Green Masters program. The Green Masters program has been around for more than 16 years, but we actually very recently, just this year, launched a redesigned version of the program that was really purpose-built as a scalable standard for companies getting started in sustainability. I'm going to go through a little bit about how we came to that and how the Green Masters tool really acts as that scalable standard and that on-ramp for companies in sustainability. Next slide, please. So when we started, WSBC, again, has been around a long time and has been supporting organizations in sustainability, helping companies advance sustainable business practices for more than 15 years. And these are some of the challenges we've heard from companies throughout that time. And Greg touched on this a little bit in his presentation, that when it comes to sustainability, there's so much out there that companies, especially when they're just trying to get started, have a really hard time prioritizing what's important. And then partly because of that, they have a hard time integrating those key issues into how they do business to really get the most value out of sustainability. We always say there's a difference between kind of random acts of sustainability and an integrated approach into how you do business. And when sustainability is really integrated, what we found is that really helps companies not just, meet the demands of their stakeholders, kind of check the box, but really take advantage of that opportunity to maximize the potential of their company and to minimize risks. And that's what Jesse talked about earlier, right? That as an organization, we define sustainability as a business growth strategy, right? To create long-term value. And so when we've been interacting with companies over the course of many years, we heard
Oh, Krista, I think you froze on me. I'll give her a minute to come back. We're having internet issues today across the board, aren't we? So I'm not sure. It looks like she might have even got kicked out. So I'll just pick up from here. Oh,
I got kicked all the way out and then it just opened again. So sorry about that. We're having some challenges today.
yeah. All right. I'll head to them.
Okay, thanks. All right. So we've heard companies, say they have struggled to integrate sustainability, get buy-in, navigate the costs related to that. And then even once, if they have buy-in, they know what they want to work on, they have trouble, whether it's with internal resources or employee bandwidth, knowing, which disclosure framework to choose, where to get started. So in hearing all of that, that's really, we wanted the Green Masters program to be a solution that addressed that. So we developed this really as a tool to define, prioritize, manage, and improve a company's sustainability performance. And across environmental, social, and governance topics, and specifically those that are meaningful to your organization and stakeholders. The Green Masters program allows companies to scope their disclosure or their assessment based on their priorities, making it relevant to what they can realistically achieve. It's a comprehensive program, including an assessment, recognition, and management tool to help you in your business. Virtual platform, fully customizable approach, and scalable standard, really to help guide your entire program. So the Green Masters program covers across the topics, development of management systems, integration of best practices, and then performance improvements. And so within that, it really helps a company identify best practices, identify ways where they can leverage the program and what's within the program, not only to earn recognition, but to act as a roadmap to help you prioritize your actions, identify best practices, and really achieve performance improvements. And one of the things that's unique about the program is that it wraps a membership organization through WSBC around the tool. And through that, you have access to peer-to-peer learning, mentoring, resources, technical expertise, training, education, tools, just a slew of resources to support your journey. Next slide, please, Becky. So Greg shared this in his slide again. And one of the things that, sorry, I'm just going to adjust my view a little bit. Okay, that's better. So in the Green Masters program, we follow the same outline that Greg defined when he talked about how we help companies establish a strategic sustainability program, right? So it starts with assessing material topics, setting your business priorities, planning and embedding, establishing metrics and goals, executing, evaluating, and adjusting. Really follows that same plan, do, check, act cycle to help companies create and follow a roadmap in establishing their sustainability programs. Next slide, please, Betsy. So again, the program covers 15 topics across 4 different categories. So we have environment, society, workforce, and governance and leadership. And I'm not going to go through each of these topics. You can take a moment to review them here. But what I want to point out is, again, in each one of these topics, walk a company through how to develop management systems specific to that topic, what metrics to track, how to establish goals, normalizing factors, what are best practices in that topic, unique to that topic. And then, what would KPIs for performance improvement look like? And so again, this is where this program is really not only a recognition program, but a tool to help companies get started and advance in sustainability. Next slide, please, Ceci. So the program starts with a materiality worksheet that helps companies kind of practically work through what's most material to their organization and stakeholders. So for each topic addressed within the program, companies rate the importance of that topic in terms of impact to their business and importance to their stakeholders. Greg shared a little bit about what considerations go into that assessment, that materiality assessment. And then the Green Masters program offers a tool to help you work through that and document that. Next slide, please, Ceci. After completing that materiality worksheet, participants can see their results reflected in a materiality matrix. The way we read a materiality matrix is from top right to bottom left. The graph visually demonstrates how high of a priority each topic is. So along the y-axis, we have importance to stakeholders. Along the x-axis, we have impact to your business. So again, on kind of that scale of 1 to 10, you can see top right would be the highest priority both to your company and to your stakeholders. And then as we move to the bottom left, it would be less important. So companies can use this visual aid to help select their priorities from the topics included in the program. And then only those selected topics will be included in the company's assessment. For companies just getting started in sustainability, we recommend starting with your highest priority 3 to 5 topics, and then kind of moving down that materiality matrix to the bottom left and adding additional topics that are relevant to your organization and stakeholders as your program matures, and you can really integrate those topics into how you do business. Again, as Greg said, it's quality over quantity. And so over time, as you really integrate those topics, you can add additional priorities, and then you can have quantity and quality over time. Next slide, please. So again, only the topics selected will be included in an organization's assessment. You'll be scored for each topic individually, and then your overall score for the program will be based on the kind of cumulative score for all of the topics that you included in your assessment. Next slide, please, Jessie. So with that overall score, you achieve a status within the Green Masters program. So adapting, advancing, maturing, and Green Master are the 4 status levels. It essentially aligns with quartiles. So if you get 25% of the available points in the topics you identified as material, you'd be at adapting. 25 to 50 would be advancing, 50 to 75 maturing, and then over 75 would be a Green Master status. And WSBC members are actually eligible for recognition within the program that align, and that recognition would align with each of these status levels. So again, for companies just getting started in sustainability, we recommend starting with 3 to 5 topics, and that would make them eligible for the adapting status. And then as a company's program grows and matures, you can add additional topics, allowing you to be eligible for higher levels of recognition. We recognize that, you know, the industry that you're in will affect how many topics are priorities to you and which topics are priorities to you, in addition to kind of your unique business situation. So we offer general guidance around how many topics would be required to reach each one of these status levels, both for manufacturing or heavy industrial users, and then commercial or you know, less intensive, less resource intensive participants as well. So the Green Masters program really is something that appeals to any company of any size and any industry. Next slide, please. I see a ton of benefits in the Green Masters program. Again, we've kind of talked about this, that it's a tool to prioritize, define, prioritize, and manage your company's performance, specifically in the topics that are meaningful to you and your business. And then through recognition, you know, it offers a third-party credential to validate that your sustainability program really meets or exceeds internationally recognized standards. So in redeveloping the program, we made sure that we aligned with a slew of widely used internationally recognized standards, so that this tool could not only help a company really achieve success within WSBC and the Green Masters program, but also beyond that, right? Into a range of other standards that they may be either through regulation or customer requirements may be required to participate in. The Green Masters program is going to help set you up for success in those as well. However, you can also earn recognition as you grow your sustainability program. And as a participant, you can use the Green Masters program logo to help share your sustainability story and progress. Next slide, please. So I won't go through all of these, but again, there's just a slew of benefits to participating in the Green Masters program, from recognition to validation to learning. And a lot of these you'll see align with kind of the business case for sustainability. And we were really intentional to make this a practical tool that companies across the board can benefit from. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. Next slide, please. And with that, if Greg is still available, I can turn it over to Greg to talk about how we can support companies in their journey.
Krista, I am.
Okay.
Next slide. So WMEP really has an integrated suite of assessments and services that can help you if you start to look at things, how you can grow organizationally. We help companies find ways to reduce costs and increase their capacity. The service line that I lead is, helping you to be in compliance and achieve certifications to the alphabet soup of the ISO standards and improving quality. But we also have and do a lot of work with clients on helping to maximize human talent and culture. So really, we're a well-rounded consulting firm that can provide those services at affordable costs for folks to be able to, really help develop and grow their businesses. And we love a challenge, and happy to work through our status as a nonprofit to be able to help you to realize your operational goals.
Either one of you want to speak to the assessment and how it aligns to the Green Masters at all, or?
Yeah, so we developed a sustainability assessment that really helps you hit the ground running in the Green Masters program. However, even if you're not a participant in the Green Masters program, it's designed to help you work through that materiality process with a perspective of, what are your customers doing? What are some of your competitors doing? What are kind of the best practices and standards in your industry that could impact you or that you should know about and align with? What are the expectations out there of some of your key stakeholders? We help you evaluate that, sift through that, and then identify the topics within environment, society, and governance that are material for your organization. And then we help you prioritize those kind of based on this, where you're at in your management journey to integrate those into your organization. So it can be standalone, right? If you just are trying to get started in sustainability, you're not sure where to start. If you're getting some pressure from customers or other key stakeholders, if you don't have the internal resources, I saw a few of you say that you're kind of you've done some projects in sustainability, but you're not entirely sure where to go from here, right? Or you need to integrate it across your business. There was a big percentage of you. And so the sustainability assessment is really designed to meet that need, right? To help you prioritize, focus, build the business case for the topics that really matter to your organization and stakeholders. And then we help you identify what are the next steps to accelerate program development and performance improvement in those key priority topics. And then again, should you choose to participate in the Green Masters program, it fully aligns. So you could take the deliverable from that assessment and fill out that materiality worksheet, select your business priorities. And we even can offer suggestions around which topics within Green Masters we would recommend as a result of that assessment. Anything else you want to add to that, Greg?
It's very thorough. So, but you know what? Not much to add there. So great job, Krista. Thanks.
Thanks. And then also point out that for the 21st Century Pathways program, that's kind of for companies who have already gone down the road of sustainability a bit. And this is one that can help really take you to the next level in integrating sustainability into your business function. So it's module-based coaching in your priority sustainability topics. And again, totally customizable to support your unique business priorities. So it kind of be like the sustainability assessment would be if you're just getting started or don't know where, haven't selected your priorities. 21st Century Pathways is really great if you know what your priorities are, but you need that next step in how to integrate it into your business and specifically into your business strategy.
Awesome. Thanks to both of you. So I know there's a few members out there, so thanks for your support and participation. Those of you who are not members, I just wanted to speak briefly to our member program because the Green Masters program is a free tool to our members, and membership is based on your organization size. So we really try to make it cost effective because again, our mission and vision is that all companies are organizing around sustainability. So we want to make that really accessible. So just the key benefits of membership are education. We do monthly webinars, we do quarterly networking. We have lots of resources, as Krista and Greg both mentioned. We do peer-to-peer working groups. I'll talk about our annual conference real briefly in the next slide. So you get access to the Green Masters program, but you also get access to this network of other business people in the state and out of the state working on sustainability. So we really try to bring you together to help problem solve together. You know, we are a resource for you, but we're also like, you know, 1.5 people. So, you know, we really try to help bring you all together to collaborate and work together to solve these problems. And then, of course, we love sharing your sustainability stories to our member base. So with that said, I want to invite you all to our annual conference. This year, it's November 16th. I'm sorry I didn't update this picture, but Kuna Mutual Group is now True Stage. So it's going to be held at True Stage in Madison in their beautiful new building. And we're going to be talking a lot about the workforce. We have a whole track on that in terms of strategies that you can employ across your organization, as well as like very specific data on what employees are expecting of employers. We also have a track on greenhouse gas management. That's a huge topic for companies right now. So lots of great information, lots of ways to connect with your fellow sustainability-minded folks across the state. So that's in November. Registration likely wouldn't be open till September for that. And then we also have an in-person tour coming up in Muskego, Wisconsin in September. So I wanted to make sure you all knew about that. That's a sustainability sort of an action. Impro Corporation is in Muskego. We'll be sort of doing a deep dive into the evolution of their sustainability program, sort of the nuts and bolts of it, and then we'll get to take a tour and walk around and see it all in action. And then they're generous enough to offer us some hors d'oeuvres and happy hour beverages if you want to stay till 5 o'clock. So come join us, learn more about what we do, meet other members. We also have a lot more events. We do monthly webinars. So I didn't put those on there. You could find those at our website, which is wisconsinsustainability.com, just /upcoming events. That's how you can find out about the working group specific to Green Masters. And then WMEP does less events than we do, but they do lots of like supervisor skills and those sorts of things. So you can learn about their events at wmep.org/events. So I know we're close to time here. I wanted to make sure to leave a little more time for questions. So I apologize, we don't have more time for that, but I can address any questions anybody has. I will send out the recording once it's complete, the PowerPoint slides, as well as that materiality webinar that I referenced earlier. I will send that all out to you in an email either later today or tomorrow. Our email addresses are here if you want to follow up. And I will pause here if anybody has any questions or comments, or anything that they want to share. We do thank you for your engagement and questions. I appreciate you bringing up the SDGs for sure. Thanks for being here. Hi, Kurt. All right, I'm going to
Bye. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording.